Ellettsville Town Council to order for Monday, September 11th. Jimmy, prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you just one more time. Again, we thank you so much for this little town. We ask that you would remember those who were affected by the 9/11 attack. We ask that you be with those families that were affected and those loved ones that were lost. Please be with us tonight as we work through our agenda and work through the things that are good for the town. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the roll call, Sandy.
William Ellis.
Here.
Trevor Sager.
Here.
Scott Oldham.
Here.
Pamela Samples. Here. Dan Swafford.
Here.
Approval of minutes for the regular meeting, August 28th, 2023.
So moved.
Second. William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
I'll abstain, not present.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Motion carries.
Action to pay accounts payable, vouchers, and payroll.
So moved. Second.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Motion carries.
All right. Ordinances on first reading. Excuse me. Pre-adoption hearing for the 2024 budget. Ordinance 2023-10 for appropriations and tax rates for 2024. Who has this?
Well, this is just a public hearing, and it's to let the public speak if they want. The overall budget for next year is $7,330,568, and the taxes for property tax should be $2,919,516. And the proposed tax rate is 0.64.
Okay. Council discussion? Keep in mind, this is not being adopted tonight, just discussed. Any council discussion? Seeing none. Public comment.
What was the tax rate?
Please come up to the, sorry. Because our public may have a question with that too.
But I keep saying I couldn't hear her, and so I just wondered what she said the tax rate was.
Well, this is projected at 0.64, but I have to use a reduced AV to figure this just to ensure that we get our full levy. When it comes out, it will be less than that finalized. And our current year's tax rate is 0.4. And it has gone from 0.8 to 0.4 over the last 5 years. So the growth in Ellettsville keeps dropping our rate. So this, we're just, yeah, thanks.
All right. Any other public comment?
Is this budget on our website?
No. Pardon?
It is in Gateway though, isn't it?
Yes, I've got it all in the gateway, and the public notice is my requirement, and it's been posted on the gateway.
We should have a link to that, put on our website, take it to that, if you can do that. Don't look at me like that.
Yeah.
Just a thought, guys, make it easier.
All right. Any other council discussion? All right. We'll move on to ordinance 2023-12 to amend ordinance 2022-15, fixing of the salaries for budget 2023, budget year 2023. And
this is due to some of the promotions that are later on the agenda.
okay.
And the master mechanic is a newly created position. And the lineman was an existing position, but we had not filled it for a few years. So on the salary ordinance for 2023, I had left that blank. So now I have to amend those if we're going to put people in those positions.
Excuse me. Are those the correct figures?
Well, I worked on them for quite a while, so I hope so.
Well, it shows a 48-cent increase.
Well, it was my understanding that you wanted an increase of $1 an hour, and
So that's the additional 48?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, it's somewhere in there. If you would like to come in tomorrow, I'll go over the figures with you. It's
Okay,
not-
well, I did some math, but not enough.
Yeah. This is just to cover us for the rest of this year, too,
Okay,
but
very good. Okay. I just had to ask. Thank you.
All right, council discussion? Public comment? Okay, seeing, go
I
ahead.
meant to get out the cards to see if you wanted to pass that on the first reading, because when do you want these changes to take effect?
It'd be nice if it took effect tonight, if there's no problem with that.
Well, I can't pay him the additional fee until this is passed, so you can either pass it on the first reading, or we can make it retroactive, and I'll have to go back and adjust.
It's the board's decision. We can wait. I'm not.
Are you good with going retroactive on the next meeting?
Yes.
How much trouble does that cause your office?
It'll just be an adjustment.
Okay.
It's not horrible.
All right, moving on. Ordinances on second reading. Ordinance 2023-09 to amend Chapter 150 of the Ellettsville Town Code by adding emergency responder radio coverage in new buildings. I think, Kevin, you had an update on this?
Yes, with some proposed changes the state's looking at making and some additional clarifications that need to be made. I'd like to pull that at this time, and I'll reintroduce it later when we get it better clarified. Move the table.
Second.
I think instead of tabling it, he just wants it off the agenda. It's already been announced and read into the record. What do you mean?
We already announced it, read it to the record. We can't just remove it now, can we, Darla?
I would prefer a motion to table, just to make the record clear.
So we're gonna have to table it every time?
I will not put it back on the agenda until I'm instructed to do so by Kevin and Darla. And he said, I think the changes are coming in January, so it'll probably be next year before it comes back.
So it'll probably be back to first reading again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it may be totally different.
Well, we have a motion for a table and a second. Any more council discussion on that?
Who made that second? I'm sorry.
I'll take it.
Trevor.
Are you waiting on me?
Mhm.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Motion carries.
All right, flood report, Mike?
Nope, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Whoa. Yeah, skipped over the big one tonight. Ordinance 2023-11 to amend the zoning map from agricultural 2 to commercial at 7633 West State Road 46, 115 acres. And who has that?
I can start.
Okay.
At its meeting on September 7th, the Plan Commission voted to give a favorable recommendation to Town Council for this property to be rezoned from agricultural 2 to commercial 3. The recommendation was unanimous. The petitioner, Chris Smith, is here this evening along with his engineer, Jeff Fanyo. It'll be rezoning 115 acres, as I said, from A2 to commercial 3. Property's current use is agricultural purposes. The comprehensive plan, which is adopted on June 24th, 2023, designates the land between the planned unit development and residential 1 zoning and Monroe County's agricultural/rural reserve has a mixed-use village center. The primary use of a mixed-use village center is a horizontal or vertical mix of uses ranging from residential, small-scale commercial, and institutional uses such as parks, schools, and religious facilities. Before you, I placed some renderings. There's a conceptual plat. And I want to remind everybody that these renderings are conceptual, and for illustrative purposes only. It starts out with going off of 46 into a designated commercial area, which will be the center of the village, mixed-use village center, and then it is followed by single-family housing or housing. And then at the Plan Commission, Mr. Smith agreed to put in a 50-foot buffer between Litton Estates and his property. He'll be building a connection to Sycamore Drive to the end of his property. And to the west, he'll build a connection towards the Boys and Girls Club, so the school buses will not have to get on 46. Of course, the school will have to meet the connection, you know, on Sycamore Drive. So, and he's here to answer any questions you may have.
Is it council's pleasure to have him speak first and we can answer questions, or do you have questions that... Chris, if you want to come up here and speak, and they have questions. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we get to council questions?
Yes, I wrote my name down. I'm Chris Smith, Edgewood graduate, grew up in Westwood Downs in Little Estates. Started building houses out here in a subdivision. Bought land off Kent Robinson's family, put in the last of Deer Run and filled out that neighborhood up there. Learned the Harmon Farm, got under contract and thought I was going to do a conventional subdivision. And then met with Denise and read and envisioned Ellettsville and saw the comprehensive plan and got really excited. So that's how we got here today. And the C3 request is to marry the comprehensive plan with your current zoning ordinance, because that's the best zoning to allow us to meet the comprehensive plan requirements. So that's really the request is here today. The village center is an important part of this. The footprint you see, all those little boxes, little rectangles, are 35 by 125, which is a footprint of a building basically on Spencer Square. We went and looked at the downtown neighborhood villages kind of thing. And you know, these would be 2, 3, maybe a 4-story building in there possibly, but they'll be narrow, individually owned is the goal. We'll create those lots and sell them off to a law office or a healthcare facility, or you know, we're talking about the fire. They asked me about land for the fire department. I'd love to see them in line on that main street going in. Kind of more of an urban style fire department. That's their choice. We'll have to work through that. Met with the school board. They're important. They really wanted internal network to get the school over to what was the early childhood center, now the Boys and Girls Club. They also wanted signalized access to 46. So we brought the road back as close to them as we could. 25 acres they own. There's currently a cornfield as close to Sycamore Drive as we could get it. Those main internal streets will have an 8-foot multi-purpose path beside them, so the kids, or however they want to do it, can get from the school to the boys club, or you know, into the neighborhood, and vice versa. We're trying to complement with the Smithville project across the street that I think you'll see here in the next few months. I have a meeting with them coming up, I think, in November. We're trying to coordinate with the engineering to make sure the signal's placed in the right spot on 46 for us and them and the school. So that's kind of the general gist of the village center. And that layout's kind of showing, you know, the village green. There'll be some kind of park space there for gathering. And this is really following new orders and principles. And you know, I want to thank Denise and you guys for passing the comprehensive plan, because it's a phenomenal planning document to guide the future growth of Ellettsville, and I was really excited to see it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council questions, discussion?
Yeah, I've got one. I'll start off. First off, I appreciate your vision here. You've done some really neat things. One of the things that I've heard the most from folks within Litton Estates, obviously, is they're used to seeing horses out their backyard for the last 20 years. Can you kind of go into a little bit more detail? We keep hearing this 50-foot vegetation path or buffer area. For those that aren't looking at the diagram, that are watching on TV tonight or will review the meeting later, can you kind of just detail what you're planning on doing with that buffer strip for the folks in Litton Estates?
So specifically, the buffer strip is to buffer any commercial use from any existing residential. That's specifically how it reads. So one thing Ellettsville's asked me for is a grocery store. So let's say we get a larger grocery store that goes along our eastern edge. Well, that would be adjacent to Litton Estates. we can't do that. That's not fair to them, to anybody. So that's why we talked about that last week. Said, okay, we'll codify the 50-foot buffer right now. It's now tied to the land. So if we do commercial up against Lytton, there'll be a minimum 50-foot buffer. In the code, we gave them very specific discussion on what that buffer would be in terms of trees, elevations, berms, water catchment, things like that. So that's the purpose of that. Now, if there's not commercial against them, residential can go up against them. It's specifically, I would say, single family. If we build single family along any existing house in the States, any housing, it would be single family to back up to them, or we gotta do the 50-foot buffer. And we still have, and really, there's only 9 houses along that line. 3 or 4 of them have water issues, which means we're gonna be building a detention basin behind them, which is gonna be more than a 50-foot issue anyway, so. So I think we've got that pretty much covered in terms of a buffer, if we need it.
Trevor, here's the line right here.
Right.
Well, I'm not doing too well, but that's.
It's right
that
there.
north-south running there, that's the buffer strip.
Yes.
Not yet. So this is where the commercial started here. This was put on here as a buffer, but more of like a live work or some kind of housing concept here. But the housing stops here. Lytton Estates is only along our line right here. So if there was a bigger grocery that went in here and these had to go away, that 50-foot buffer would run up along that line, and we'd buffer them from that grocery store from the neighborhood. But it'd really only be these houses right here. If we have to continue the buffer, we would, depending on what's happening there.
Right.
So, but buffers are nice, so
Yeah.
either way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep losing the mouse.
Other
Lose
council
the
discussion?
mouse.
Questions?
I guess, are we looking at other outlots for commercial, like restaurants, things like that, or what's the plan?
The goal is to go a traditional neighborhood design. The buildings are in line, the restaurant have to go in line. The 2 front buildings, there's one, the left side could possibly have a drive-through structure tied to it, but I don't necessarily want standalone buildings, and I don't necessarily want outlots. The only possible outlet that I could see is if a larger grocery chain came in, they'd want a gas kiosk on their outlet, but I wouldn't let that go at the entrance. I would make it push behind the town center, and you'd have to go around to get to it. Whether they'd allow that, I don't know, but that would be my goal. I don't want to disrupt the continuity of the buildings and the town center itself. And I don't plan any standalone, like, fast food chain restaurant structures at all. That plan doesn't show that, and that's not our intent.
And forgive me if you're not familiar with it, the little town center thing that's in front of IKEA up in Fishers, that kind of, almost like rows of, just row after row of side-by-side restaurants, is that what we're talking about?
Well, these will be connected, though.
Right, they're all connected, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing, only, I can't imagine having a ton of restaurants. 2, maybe 3 would be nice, that'd be great. Love to have the fire station row, love to see a law office in that row, love to see a nurse practitioner in that row, barber shop, coffee shop, all those kind of uses. Dave Harstead is my commercial broker, going to be working with us to help identify the commercial uses we want, and we'll go after them first. The goal would be to sell them their lot with covenants and restrictions and building requirements, and they build their own structure with 0 lot line footers. So just like an old town would have developed, the buildings get built one at a time in a row. Some are 2-story, some are 3, some are 1, depending on, and we'll make the streetscape and the walking areas for the pedestrians and the car park, make sure the height to width ratios work and it's a comfortable place to be.
So it's not like a strip mall, in other words, each.
The goal is, so if I normally would do a grocery store, we throw a strip mall off the side of it.
Right.
In this instance, conventionally, if the grocery's here, we're gonna run it this way, but it's not gonna be a strip mall, it's gonna be buildings. And if there's one story, they're gonna start one story and end one story to come up and then come back down, but they're not gonna be a row, one-story, single standalone structures. We're not gonna do that.
Okay.
That's not the intent of the comprehensive plan, that's not our intent here. It doesn't follow the village center guideline.
What's your projection, if you know, on completion of all 5 of these? 10 years, 15 years?
I say 10. I'm thinking if we're lucky, we're breaking ground in 2024 with permits in place. I would hope that's happening. I'm pretty sure that'll happen for first phase of residential. We still have to work out with the neighbor across the street. We have to work with NDOT to identify a signal. And we got to work on getting commercial ventures to fund all that. So we're gonna work on all of that at the same time. But I can see the first housing starting in 2025, or available to people in 2025. hopefully that main road's in, the signalized intersection's in, Raymond's Run's connected, and phase one's built out infrastructure-wise. And there's some commercial buildings being built. That'd be the goal.
Okay.
And we're gonna work really hard to get there.
With this, like those common areas like the Village Green and the buffer, who would be maintaining that? Will they be paying into, what's similar to a,
It's gonna be up to some kind of master association. It's gonna be a commercial association. It's all gonna be shared parking. We're not gonna sell a lot off to a grocery store and let them build their own parking, not be able to use it. So the buildings along the main street, the grocery store, any commercial use there, there'll be an association that builds the parking lots and maintains and shares in the cost with all the owners of all the lots.
gotcha.
And the residential area will be similar if necessary. I'm not a fan of associations in neighborhoods. You have covenant restrictions and that's it. But if we have green spaces and areas that have to be maintained, then we'll have to do it. But we'll do it on a limited schedule in terms of fees. I don't like high fees for associations. So the commercial will be completely separated from the residential from the standpoint of an association for maintenance.
Okay. Any other council questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'll invite any public comment.
I'm Kyle Hanna with the Envision Ellettsville program. I'm going to say basically the same thing I said at the Plan Commission. You know, we a couple of years ago, we put a lot of effort into putting together Envision Ellettsville. You know, feedback from the public, feedback from you, feedback from the community, all kinds of ways to get feedback from folks. And I think we've done a good job of working. You know, the feedback we've gotten has I think improved the comprehensive plan. We've gone through all this process and come up with a really nice plan that looks great. And then what you hope is that some developers catch a vision of it and say, this looks pretty good. This is kind of what Ellettsville says it needs, and I'm going to step up and do that, which is exactly what Mr. Smith said at the Plan Commission and again tonight. So we're very excited about that. We think this is a good testament to all the work that you and others have put into this, and it's starting to pay off already, which is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Oh, I see it. Okay.
Good evening.
Hey there.
Well, I'm coming here tonight in support of Chris Smith and this ordinance, the amendment. I always appreciate when a developer comes ahead of time and sits down and meets with us as a school corporation and asks us what are our needs, how can we listen to what you would like to have in a development near the school corporation, and that's where we were able to share a long time effort to extend Sycamore Street to 46, or at least to Boys and Girls Club. The reason for that is safety for our school buses, and so there. I know there's some concern about whether we would be able to handle the additional housing, but we've already been planning and talking and discussing about the many housing additions coming to Ellettsville. And so we have some plans in our future construction projects. We have some debt that will be falling off in 2025, and so we will have some construction bond funds that we will be able to access at that time to. And the plan is to use that for additional classroom space, and those additional bonds would be secured with the intent to not raise the tax rate, in fact, maybe to lower the tax rate. And so we fully support Mr. Smith and his plans.
Thank you. And we have Jennifer Pearl on Zoom, the BEDC.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Jen Pearl, and I'm the president of the Bloomington economic development strategy, and expansion, retention, and attraction of quality jobs. Housing is a critical element of quality of place. It's also one of the areas of focus of our Economic Vitality Project to ensure that Monroe County becomes the community of choice for employers, innovators, individuals, and families. Housing costs and availability remain a challenge in our community, especially for single-family homes. And we also see that workers and employers both lose out due to lack of attainable housing. Our largest employers report pulling half of their employees from outside the county. Commuting employees pay more in transit and time when they have to move outward to find attainable housing. And this challenges employers that are seeking staff. Commuting also has an environmental impact, and the local community loses out on income taxes of individuals that move outside of the county since they pay based on where they live. So we look forward to seeing the growth of housing of all needed types. We're excited to see this project here and elsewhere across Ellettsville. Thank you for considering this project, and we are in support of more housing options for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment for in person? Seeing none, back to council action.
I would move that we adopt ordinance 2023-11 to amend the zoning map from agricultural 2 to commercial general business, 7633 West State Road 46.
And that includes the amendments as proposed by the Plan Commission and agreed to by the developer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
William Ellis?
Before I give my vote, I want to say I've discussed this quite a bit with the public at large, and I want to thank Chris Smith and Jerry Sanders because the biggest things were traffic and the impact of the school, and I think you guys have done a great job of addressing both of those. There's always going to be some impact, but it's how we address that impact, so I really want to thank you. So I'm a resounding yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And Mike, I know I got ahead of myself with the flood report, but we're there now.
Okay, well, it's supposed to rain about .10 rain tonight, so I think we're okay tonight as far as the flood is concerned. There's quite a bit of activity on the north end of the project for flood mitigation on Vine Street. I think once that's complete, you'll see some of the bigger equipment and more activity along Vine Street to the south or east, depending on where you're standing. So anyway, it's going well, and we're excited.
All right. Dan, you have an Envision Ellettsville update? Or does Kyle want to do it? I don't, doesn't matter.
Tonight you get Dan's understudy. I think as some of you know, we had the task forces have been meeting, and recently we thought they've kind of gone through their topics, and now they're sort of talking about the same major topics, pulling together. So we said, let's have a meeting with one task force that kind of continued the three. And then the conversation was, we have a couple other task forces that have important things to say that we've not had part of this process yet. So our plan is we're seeing can we pull all of them together, all the task forces, and have a single task force, and then change the structure of what they do, what they talk about, and most importantly, how they react to the information, the plans that are going on now, so that you get the feedback that you need going forward. And that's the plan. How do we do this most efficiently and most effectively? Gotten a lot of good feedback and information from the task forces so far. They've been good meetings, and we're really looking forward to what's coming in. I think we'll be kind of even looking at some beautification and some signage things that a lot of people have been asking about, and we'll see what we can come up with to serve you.
Well, we've had the first meeting for the UDO.
Yep.
And that was a productive meeting and a good start. So part of the thing is getting definitions nailed down. So
that's always it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's
So
exciting to see the progress. And
Yep.
we're looking forward to it. Then there's there's an advisory board meeting Thursday. So we'll solve all the world's problems there and report back.
All right, thank you. All right, old business, Ellettsville Youth Sports League Agreement. Who has this?
I can start. What you have before you is an agreement, or a proposed agreement, that was prepared by the Youth Sports League group and provided to Jimmy Durnall, and Jimmy Durnall provided it to me. And for the council's convenience, when I emailed this to you, I also emailed to you the last version that was discussed at the council meeting, I believe back in February, so that you could compare the two. As I stated, there are some minor changes that I have no concerns about. The one item, the proposal that I do have concerns about is new paragraph 8, which states that should any forensic audit of the fund be requested by an outside party, the town will pay all costs and fees associated therewith, which I would not agree to, because if there's an audit, it's going to be by the State Board of Accounts. If there's any other party who wants an audit, I don't think it's the town's responsibility to pay for that audit. And given this agreement, I don't know who that outside party would be. The other one I had some questions about, not that I object to it, but I think maybe it needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, is new paragraph 11, which says that in the event the town should develop and construct a new youth sports complex, youth sports shall be granted first right of refusal to use said complex as its base of operations. Youth sports will also be involved as an unpaid consultant in the development of any new youth sports complex developed and constructed by the town. So I guess that provision's okay with me. I just think we need to flesh out a little bit more about what first right of refusal means and what the unpaid consultant means. And I understand that Mr. Sear, who represented the Youth Sports League in the past, has moved to a new law firm. So I was not able to talk to anybody at Youth Sports about these new provisions, proposed provisions, or what Youth Sports was really looking for. So in any event.
Council discussion?
So has a new attorney been assigned to it then? Is that what you're saying, Darla?
I don't know. All I know is that Mr. Sear is no longer with Carmen Parker. He has moved to another law firm.
So the questions you have, you don't know who to ask right now?
Right now, yes, correct. That is correct.
Okay. So then it would make sense to me to table it until we can find out this information.
Yes, but if the council has comments about my comments, or if you have any other concerns, I would appreciate it if you would let me know what that is, just so I can talk to either somebody from Youth Sports or their new council about it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I have several issues, and I'll address those with you, but I'm in concurrence with Dan, it needs to be tabled for this evening until we can work those out.
Okay, thank you.
We had an email from the incoming clerk treasurer that also outlined some concerns, and I'm sure Sandy is aware of that. And do you have the same concerns, Sandy?
Yes. One of the things they wanted was a separate account, a small account, and I totally understand why. They need stuff quite often quickly, and so I thought that wasn't a bad idea, but I don't know how they expect the clerk treasurer to monitor it if they have it, so.
So we got some things to work through. Yeah. All right. I will open it up as public comment, if anybody has any comment on this. Okay, back to council action.
Move to table. Second.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Motion carried. Now, on this one, do you want to come back on the next agenda, or you want to wait till you have met and somebody?
I'd rather wait until we have something that.
So, Darla, you'll let me know when it needs to go back. Okay, thank you.
Is that the thoughts of the council too? I mean, wait till it's all fleshed out?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next new business. we got a lot of transfers. Request to transfer Greg, is it Vagadis? Vagadis, from utilities to stormwater to replace recent retiree.
So, with Scott Bruce retiring, that's left the spot open in the stormwater division of the DPW to fill. Greg Vagadis has expressed interest in filling in the position. I come before you to request that Greg Vagadis be transferred from the utilities division of the stormwater of the DPW as a laborer one, and it's the same as what he is in the utilities division, laborer one.
Okay. Why don't you go down the list and just kind of fill what we're doing, and then we can.
Okay. Next is Tyler Breeden, and he's here tonight. He's in the very back there. Tyler has been working for the town as a temporary full-time employee since May of this year. With more work of the trail system and other projects that we've got coming up in the town, we see the need to make Tyler a full-time employee. I come before you to request to move Tyler Breeden from temporary full-time to full-time status as a laborer 2. And then lastly, with Greg Vagadis transferring, with the possibility of Greg transferring to the stormwater, we will need to fill his spot in the utilities division. And I also come for you with the request to hire of Jordan Lentz to fill the laborer 2 position. It would be a laborer 2 position in the utilities division of the DPW. Jordan has worked for the town before as a laborer, and he was a pretty good worker. So.
And is Cody May yours, or is that would that be Mike's?
Well, that's under promotions, is what that is. That's
okay. No, okay.
Transfers. So.
All right. So is there council action on this?
All these positions are budgeted, right? There's no new position being created. You're filling these into budgeted positions already, right?
Well, 2 of them are budgeted positions. I'm wanting to make Tyler Breeden from temporary full-time to full-time is what I'm wanting to do.
And we do have enough in this year's budget to accommodate that, and we covered it in next year's budget.
2024, it's listed.
Yes.
Do you have a follow-up question, Dan, or anything, or that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I was
Any
just
other
curious.
council comments? Council action?
Are we going to do them one at a time, or?
Darla, we should be able to do these all at once, shouldn't we? Or do we need 3 separate motions?
I think we've done it in the past both ways, so as long as your motion's clear, I guess I have no objection to you doing it either way.
Okay.
And for me, since, if you don't mind, since it's all written out on the agenda, I'd just soon have the motions individually.
Individually?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the request to transfer Greg Vagadis from utilities to stormwater to replace the recent retiree.
Second.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next.
Now I'll make a motion to request to move Tyler Breeden from temporary laborer to full-time laborer 2 with DPW Street.
Second.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now make a motion to request to hire Jordan Lentz as laborer 2 to fill position from the previous transfer DPW Utilities.
Second.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So now request to promote Cody May from laborer 1 to master mechanic, DPW Street. And who is that?
Well, I guess I can take it. I think we want to table this. But we do, Cody May was hired into the street department division of Department of Public Works. We hired him specifically because he come well recommended. He's good help, and he is a master mechanic. So the grand scheme of things is once we get a building built, we have a master mechanic that can work on all the fleets within the departments. and, and hopefully save a lot of money and have a lot quicker recovery time for any vehicles that are down and out. So what we really need to do tonight is vote to put a master mechanics, I'm lost my train of thought, a master mechanics position within the salary ordinance.
And we've already taken care of that with the first reading.
Oh, we have? Okay, so are we on a second reading then?
No, they talked about making it retroactive, and you agreed.
Well, so can we go ahead and promote Cody tonight?
I think that's what she's suggesting. It's covered by the ordinance already.
Fine, I misunderstood today when we talked about it.
Am I missing
I'm
something?
on a roll tonight.
No?
Okay,
Yeah, I thought we could do it, but
okay.
if you,
Let's go for it then.
okay.
All right, council discussion? Council action?
Move approval of the request to promote Cody May from Labor 1 to Master Mechanic.
Second.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, and I would point out that Cody May has been acting as citywide master mechanic, and I think he's helped the fire department quite a few times already.
Yes, after we lost Mark, we didn't lose him, he went somewhere else. He's
Yeah, you
still
got me.
with us.
Good.
But Cody's been taking care of a lot of the stuff that we're not able to, and that saves a lot of money for the town in general.
Awesome.
I'd like to add, he saved planning a lot of money. We had a door handle come off of the Chevy pickup, and the garage wanted $2,500, and it was a $21 part. And so Cody put that on for us.
Wow.
And plus, he's done other things for us, and we appreciate it.
All right. Request to promote Rob, actually, no, I'm sorry. Council action on this? We already? Already, okay. So,
You ready for Rob?
yes, okay. Request to promote Rob Hone to lineman, DPW Utilities. Mike, you got me off center
Sure, I can do
today.
it. So we want to promote Rob Hone to a lineman. We've had the lineman position within our salary ordinance for 2 or 3 years now, and we've decided that promoting Rob Hone to a lineman would be the appropriate thing for us to do, and it'll work well.
Right. Council discussion? Council action?
I make a motion to request to promote Rob Home to lineman, DPW Utilities.
I'll second.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Request to hire an additional school resource officer. Is you, Jimmy?
Requesting tonight that we give a conditional order of employment to Sam Miller. We had 7 applicants for the position. We interviewed 4, had 4 excellent candidates, as you can imagine. But we'd like to go ahead and indicate to Sam, we're going to a conditional hire pending the PERF approval on the psychological and physical. That usually takes 4 to 6 weeks is what it normally does. Thank you for your support on that also. Thank Dr. Sanders. He's still here? Yeah.
He's here.
Thank Dr. Sanders for his support. And he and I pushed each other on this one, so we.
Awesome. All right. Council discussion? Council action?
I make a motion to request to hire an additional school resource officer, Sam Miller.
Pursuant to acceptance by PERF, right?
Pursuant to what?
Acceptance by Indiana PERF.
Pursuant to acceptance per. Right.
What was that last part?
He has to be accepted by the retirement fund or we can't hire him.
Okay. I
Pursuant
just
to that.
didn't
So
hear.
basically what we're doing is extending a conditional offer of employment.
Gotcha.
There's somebody needing to be admitted to the waiting room? Or from the waiting room?
Was there a second? I didn't.
Second.
Okay.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Baker Tilly Agreement for Municipal Advisory Services for the 2023 General Obligation Bonds.
I will start. At previous town council meetings, there's been a discussion about issuing bonds to help pay for a new utilities building. And a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Farmer, Ms. Hash, and I and some other town agents or officials met with Lisa Lee from Ice Miller, who's usually serves as the bond counsel, and met with some individuals from Baker Tilly to talk about the project and an overall global perspective on how to do this project. In any event, what is before you is an engagement letter between the town and Baker Tilly for municipal advisory services for that particular project. And in a nutshell, the municipal advisor, Baker Tilly, would provide general financial advice to the town, look at the resources, advise the best way to fund this project, and assist the town in other ways that are, way too numerous to mention when you're in the middle of a bond project. But in any event, there are two prices listed, and if the town decides to fund this through the Indiana Bond Bank, there will be a flat fee of $30,000 paid to Baker Tilly. If the town decides to use a competitive or negotiated sale, the fee will be $50,000. There are other services that may be required, hopefully not. If there's any credit reporting requirements, any responses we have to draft to the IRS, anything like that, then Baker Tilly would assist us with those services, and those service fees are listed on page 6 of the engagement letter. The highest rate for the partners is $5.25 an hour. The lowest rate for the interns is $1.10 an hour. But those are for the services that we may not need. The $30,000 or $50,000 would be just for, how do I say this, the main part of the project, the general obligation bond.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
We talked about a debt replacement bond also, and Baker Tilly instructed me to advertise that in the budget. So is this agreement going to cover that also?
Good question, and I do not know the answer to that. So I will get with Baker Tilly tomorrow and ask if that's.
And Mike, the bond we're talking about here it's already built into the water rates, that one, correct? Is that the one we're?
It is built into actually the sewer rates and the water rate proposed.
Right.
It's not currently built into the sewer.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Any council discussion on this?
So it's not built into the sewer rate currently, so when we do a rate study, it'll be put in there to raise it to cover this bond.
That's correct. That's correct.
And how much are we thinking the bond is gonna ballpark? Ron, do you know?
Well, estimated to be $4.5 million, so.
But that would include the cost of the bonding services.
That's correct.
So, I mean, the 4.5 is the top number.
So how much, if we do 4.5, how much do you think that will affect the ratepayers in dollar-wise?
That's what the Baker Tilly study is going to show us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this isn't approving, my understanding, this is not approving a bond, this is just saying where we stand and which gives us different paths to go through.
So we're just approving an agreement then?
Correct.
To figure out the bond?
Right.
Okay.
Their job is to help you figure out how to do this and how to pay for it, and if you can't, why not? What else the town needs to do.
Okay, that's what I thought earlier.
Yes.
But then the talking got along and I thought
Agreed.
it was stuck in there, so it's like, all right.
Okay, any public comment? back to council action. I want to make a comment first. If we don't know if this includes what you were talking about, would it be best again to table this to make sure?
Well, I think you asked in the last meeting, if we don't do a debt replacement bond, then we will not be able to finance the street department or the MVH portion of the project. And then it would be a standalone project between the water and sewer utility. And the water rate proposal already has that assumption in it. So if in fact you do a debt replacement bond, then it would be a three-way split, or maybe actually like just less than three-way with the Department of, or with the MVH paying a little less than the water and sewer. But to be clear, if we don't do a debt replacement bond, we'll still go forward with building the building.
Right, but I guess what I was saying, Sandy's question was, did this encompass both? What was your question again, Sandy?
If it included the debt replacement
Right.
study also.
Because I don't want to come back here another week, next meeting, and we had to approve another contract for Baker and Tilly that's including that also.
We almost need to separate the two of them out, though, since this one's going to be, this study would be partially funded by water sewer in the long run, because the other one is a general obligation bond based off the property taxes, whereas this, a portion that's funded off non-property tax revenues. So do we not have to have two separate agreements anyways? Because you really can't charge water and sewer for a general obligation study.
The project will go on whether the debt replacement bond is covered in this.
Right, that's what we're talking about, is do we have a separate study for the
Right.
debt replacement budget? But this one's kind of a standalone. Yeah,
Okay, so we'd be good with
right.
passing separately.
We're almost going to have to. It's not fair to ask water sewer to absorb the cost of a general obligation bond study.
Because water and sewer is paying for this one, right?
Right.
All right. Council action.
Move approval of the agreement between Baker Tilly for municipal advisory services for the 2023 general obligation bonds.
I'll second.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Motion carries.
All right. Next, excess levy appeal petition and certification. Is that you?
Baker Tilly prepared the document, and it is in your packet, the two pertinent sheets. The state of Indiana is growing at 4% this year, and in order to file for a growth appeal, we have to exceed the growth of the state by 2%. And they use a 3-year average, and we did exceed that each of the last 3 years. So ours is like at 0.8. And we're requesting $314,137. Our tax rate, like I said earlier, has consistently dropped due to our growth. And I've told you this example many times, but say our AV was 100,000 and the state says next year you get 4% increase, that means we'd get 104,000, no matter how much we've grown. And our AV has exploded. So what's happening is our rate is just going down, and we're not capturing the growth. And part of that then hinders our ability to be able to provide public services for all this new growth that we're having. And so that's why we have the right to do a levy appeal.
Council discussion? Well, I'll chime in. I'll say last year, if anybody might remember, I was really against this because of the type of growth was just people's property assessments. The majority of it was just their property assessments increasing. But this year, it's about a 2-year lag between the time something is assessed and actually gets in the tax rolls for us to capture. So some of that new growth that you generally see with new businesses coming in, the apartments and things, that's starting to show up on our tax rolls. So, yes, we're getting an appeal to increase our percentage, but at the same time, the average homeowner should not see that big of an increase because it's being spread out on more people, and also we have more commercial, and which includes apartments, and less just pure residential growth and less just AV growth. Because, so I think this would be something that we need to do, because otherwise, it like you said, it's not keeping pace, and that's the growth that anytime something new comes on, that's when you got to look about doing this.
I didn't bring my statement that I submitted, but we have grown in for residential, over 200 homes in the last 2 years. Our police calls have increased by 43%. Our fire calls, 63% or 62%. And we've got over 300 apartment residents now that are all new in the last 2 years. So,
and most of that's starting to hit the tax rolls. With the apartments, I'm not even sure the full AV is captured, because 2 years ago they weren't all full capacity built yet. So the next couple of years we're going to see quite a big jumps with our net assessed value because of all that new construction coming on board, which will help this and should be pretty painless to the each homeowner. All right, back to council action.
I'll make a motion to approve the excess levy appeal petition and certification.
Second.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Motion carries. And the form is in the multiple signature packets.
Okay, we'll make sure we get that. All right, privilege of the floor. Anybody that hasn't spoken yet that wants to speak? I know we had somebody late come in on Zoom. If they want to raise their hand, this is their time. Okay. Anybody in the public? Seeing none. Council comments? I'm going to, actually supervisor comments, sorry.
Wednesday, the log cabin is going to be moved from downtown Ellettsville. Did you want to talk about it? It's your baby. Go for it. Go ahead.
Well, we'll get
Go
to
for
it.
it.
We'll get to it with you.
I just wanted to make sure it's covered.
Was that all you wanted to say?
It is
Awesome.
all I want to say.
Jimmy?
Traffic pattern change.
No, I'll let Denise say, that's what I was gonna talk about too. I'll let Denise.
Well, everybody's trying to steal your thunder, Denise.
Thank you for the support on this SRO. I really appreciate it.
Jeff?
I'd like to talk about the log cabin. Actually, I just want to alert residents on Ratliff Road that we will be in the next 2 weeks to 4 weeks rehabilitating the lift station, upgrading the force main. Been a lot of growth out in that area. So just wanted to make sure people knew about it and look out for our workers, please. Thanks.
Will that affect their water flow?
Wastewater.
Wait, wastewater, okay. Sorry. See, you always need clarification.
But for those people that are living in Union Valley Farms, they're probably gonna be throwing parties tonight. So I talked to the contractor. They are going to start doing milling and the overlay starting the 25th.
Awesome.
They told me they would be here next week, but they realized that there was a fall festival, so they didn't want to try to be paving while the festival is going on, because we do have streets downtown that's going to be done as well.
Okay, so which streets?
Well, in Union Valley Farms, it's Andrea, I can't remember, Jay. Yeah, Bobby Court, Alyssa, and Allen Court, Aaron Court, and then Second Street. I can't remember what else. Oh, Ritter from Third. So just a few places, the Ritter from Third over to First. So, but anyhow, the paving company says they'll be here, start milling, weather permitting, on the 25th. That's all.
All right. Denise, you didn't have anything to discuss, did you?
No. I'll just mention a few things about the log cabin. Wolf House Moving Company arrived today to start prepping the log cabin for its move. They may finish today or tomorrow. They are putting their beams and equipment under it. We've put everywhere on Facebook, the webpage, handed out notices, businesses called the school to let them know about the new traffic pattern during the move. And I'll let Kip explain that because sometimes I crisscross my north, south, and east and west. But
All right.
so anyway, we anticipate maybe till noon or so of inconvenience. So.
Dr. Sanders sent it out to you in his news information that he sends out to all the parents.
You want to explain the directions?
Well, once they get the cabin in the mobility mode, they'll come down the alleyway to the north to Main Street there at the highway. We'll stop traffic temporarily while they get out on the highway there. Then we got to go back off the highway because we can't get underneath the stoplights. While we're in the process of moving off the highway across Matthews to the other side to get back on the main, we'll let traffic go. Once we're over there, traffic will detour to the north on Matthews Drive. It's 0.2 of a mile or something like that, I can't remember now, to Maple Grove Road. Everybody will turn left on the Maple Grove Road and it'll take them right into 46. So we will have uniformed police officers, we'll have DPW workers, we're having the whole crew out there on Wednesday to help guide these people to get through during the time we do the detour.
I get to talk about it too. So, to be clear, well, everybody needs to know this. To be clear, at approximately 10 in the morning, we will enter onto westbound 46, and for at least 20 to 30 minutes, there will be no westbound 46 traffic. So anyone trying to go through Ellettsville needs to take one of the alternate routes that might be available to them. And otherwise, they will be waiting those 30 minutes until we clear the light. Once we clear the light, the detour signs will be up, and there'll be plenty of flagmen and police officers to assist. So, from 10 to 10:30, traffic will be bound up, and there will be people that won't know about it. And so, I just want everybody to understand how serious the traffic will be for at least 30 minutes.
I did want to add, when Scott Bruce was here, he prepared the footers for log cabin. Street crew dug it out. He prepared the footers. They're putting in the gravel path to support the weight of the cabin, so it'll go to its new home Wednesday for sure.
Either Kevin or Jimmy, have we notified dispatch for ambulance crews and ISP?
Yes.
We have, okay.
Yes. We went through the complete list, and we had several department head meetings, and I made sure the police and fire took care of the appropriate connections.
Okay.
We've talked to Keehee. Tony Kale's talked about it. I mean, I think we covered almost everybody.
Even Owen County was, Even Owen County was notified too, because their EMS comes from.
Yeah.
We were going to buy a helicopter, I heard, for this, but that just wasn't in the budget.
No.
Okay.
We'll have the police drone up, though. We'll have it covered that way.
That'll work. All right. Sandy?
I don't really have anything.
All right. Back to council comments.
Are they doing something with the cabin this week?
Well, I just want to say I really want to thank, we've had a very robust discussion of the public in the Ellettsville High Neighbor Facebook group about what we're doing with the town, and overall, the thoughts have been very positive, and we've gotten very good questions, and because of those questions, both raised there, Plan Commission, I think the project that Chris Smith is doing is as good as it, I mean, it fits everything we're looking for from the town. And, you know, with the levy appeal, I don't ever like to, I'll never tax you guys more than what kind of the inflationary bump is. And I'd never vote for that if that were the case. But, so whatever the town taxes increased last year, it'll be about the same. I would say between 5 and 11 to 12% on one scale, even with the levy appeal. So with the levy appeal, you're going to be paying a little bit more than you did last year, but not much more. Anyone else? Seeing no additional comments, we're adjourned.